And oh, it's so amazing. He's so amazing. Could I host Ra? But also, Vlad the Inhaler. I'm gonna say one thing, Rick Riordan. I still stand by what I said. This should be made into a TV show. Hey besties, it's Joel and welcome back to my journey of reading the Riordanverse, where this weekend I'm going to be delving into the Kane Chronicles, and I'm super excited because this is basically Egyptian mythology and it's basically going to give me those House of Anubis vibes that I had when I was a kid. If you've yet to check out the first installment where I read Percy Jackson and the Olympians for the very first time, I would highly recommend you go check that out because it's just such a cool video for one. 2, Nico D'Angelo's supremacy, but also 3, it's super exciting to finally launch this journey, and I think I'm gonna have to make a playlist for this kind of mini series that I'm doing now. But before we get into the Kane Chronicles properly and discuss what the books are about, take a deeper look at the covers, this video is being sponsored by Book of the Month, and so I'm gonna throw it on over to future Joel in order to tell you all about that. Hello besties, I'd like to thank Book of the Month for sponsoring today's video. When they reached out to me to see if they wanted to sponsor me, I literally jumped at the chance because I've always wanted to receive one of their boxes, and now Book of the Month is a super popular book service for readers located within the US, with their main objective to promote new and emerging authors and help readers discover books that they'll love. Each month, Book of the Month curates a selection of new and early release titles for readers to choose from so they can spend a little less time researching and a little more time devouring wonderful prose. Plus, Book of the Month is risk-free, so you can skip any month, anytime, and you won't be charged. I was fortunate enough to receive all 5 of their July picks, and so the books curated for July are Razorblade Tears, a thriller following the murder of a gay couple and their ex-convict fathers who pursue a quest of revenge for their sons. The People We Keep, a coming-of-age story about hitting the open road and finding yourself along the way. 56 Days, a thriller following a fresh couple who move in during a lockdown, but things shift when one of them ends up dead. We Are the Brennans, a contemporary following an Irish Catholic family torn apart by secrets. And finally, Sisters in Arms, a historical fiction following the first and only all-black battalion of the Women's Army Corps, the 6888. I think the one that I'm going to pick up first though is Razorblade Tears, because whilst this does look like a really cool revenge story, it also looks like it might comment on the intersections of race and homosexuality, because the 2 fathers, one black father and one white father, I'm really interested to see like the kind of dynamic that forms between them, but also how they face their internalized homophobia. And so if that sounds great to you and you have a US-based shipping address, then you can follow the link in my description and use code SUNNY5 on the Book of the Month website to get your first book for $9.99. And now we can get back to the fabulous story of the Kane children. So yeah, I'm really excited to be delving into the Kane Chronicles and delving into my second Rick Riordan series, because Percy Jackson was just so amazing, and I know a lot of you did want me to read Heroes of Olympus next, but my July is looking pretty busy, and I don't think I have the time to commit to like a 5-book series in a week. So I'm committing to a 3-book series in a weekend, and I think that's just gonna be much better for me, and also much better for you, because then we get to take a look at the trilogies as well as the 5-book series. I know a lot of you in the comment section, if the Percy Jackson video, said that the Kane Chronicles is very underrated within the Riordanverse fandom, and so I'm really excited to get into it and see what it's all about. So we have the Red Pyramid, the Throne of Fire, and finally the Serpent's Shadow. And I think all the covers are just so beautiful. They were done by John Rocco, and the jacket design was done by Joan Hill. And John Rocco was actually the one who designed the Percy Jackson covers of the last Riordanverse video that I did. So, I mean, John Rocco, you're really good with your covers, and I love it. I love the nakedness of this series. Like, there's nothing on there, but I think the colors they've chosen are really nice. Plus, I do love the spine. But I'm really excited to finally be getting into these, because Egyptian mythology is something that I've been really interested in since I was younger with the House of Anubis. The House of Anubis being a show developed by Nickelodeon, where an American girl goes to a British boarding school and starts to uncover mysteries and a conspiracy set by her professors. And so it's really interesting. It's very like dark academia vibes. I think the Kane Chronicles will help me relive some of the experiences of me wanting to be part of the Saboon again. Okay, so the Kane Chronicles follows Carter Kane, who since his mother's death 6 years ago, he's been traveling the world with the brilliant Egyptologist and father, Dr. Julius Kane. But while Carter's been homeschooled, his sister Sadie has been living with their grandparents in London, and both of them have what each other wants. Carter just wants a normal life with friends in a normal school, and Sadie just wants to spend more time with her father and be a family with him. And so after 6 years of living apart, the siblings have almost nothing in common. until now. On Christmas Eve, Sadie and Carter are reunited and brought to the British Museum by their father, who plans to make everything right. But things go a little bit awry when he accidentally summons a shadowy figure that banishes him and causes a fiery explosion. And soon Sadie and Carter realize that the ancient gods of Egypt awakening, and the most frightening of them all, Set, has a terrifying scheme. And so the pair of them, to save their father, must embark on a dangerous quest and uncover their family's links to the House of Life, a secret order that has existed since the time of the pharaohs. And so I'm really excited to be diving into the Kane Chronicles because I feel like it's gonna be such a stellar series. I've seen a lot of people talk about how awesome Sadie is as a character, so I'm gonna get to reading the Red Pyramid and I'll catch up with you once I've finished, give my whole thoughts and reactions and feelings, and how much I may love this series. And so yeah, let's get us started with the Kane Chronicles, besties. Hello besties, and I hope you're doing very well. This morning I finally finished The Red Pyramid, and this book was amazing. This book really relived my House of Anubis fantasy, especially with the inclusion of the Eye of Horus. Like, it was amazing. It was so cool. Carter and Sadie Kane are just such amazing kids. I think that the way they react to the situation they're put in is very mature for their age, but also in a way that just feels very realistic. And again, the way that Rick Riordan writes kids in such a realistic way really speaks to me, particularly with the conversations surrounding identity that Sadie and Carter go through with this novel. I think it's it's so amazing. There's a lot you can analyze from critical perspectives with this text in terms of identity, who you are and who you want to be, and kind of looking at why certain people's lives aren't exactly the best in certain circumstances. I think the kind of conversations that Rick Riordan has about like Sadie not being able to fit in with her father and brother because of her skin being lighter was also a really nice nuanced touch in terms of mixed representation in this novel. I think it was really nice to have included that, especially as someone who has a white mother. It's definitely an experience that I relate to, where people kind of see my mother and see me and just don't believe that we're mother and son. It's weird, and I think that just all families look different, and so I like that Rick Riordan touches upon this, especially with Carter as well, in terms of the police officer and his father teaching him that police officers will look at him differently and stuff like that. I think that this was written in 2010 and this is now 2021 and we're still experiencing this kind of thing. We're still resonating with this kind of thing. I think it just speaks to a lot of the change that needs to happen, and also how deeply embedded institutional racism is within our societies, and it's amazing, and Rick Riordan understood that, and it's so amazing. He's so amazing. But yeah, speaking of Carter and Sadie, amazing kids. I think Sadie's just such a badass, and Carter is very like big brother-esque, and it reminds me a lot of my relationship with my younger sister as well. Like, I'm Carter, she's Sadie. I think the way that the siblings interact with one another is amazing. The way that they'll have arguments, they'll have like these big kind of discussions, but they still really care about each other, and although it looks like they hate each other on the surface, they do like respect one another, and it's just amazing. Plus Bast, oh my gosh, Bast is such a good character, and I did almost cry a few times. Amos, such a cool character. Julius Kane was also really interesting in the very beginning and also the very end, and I'm excited to see what happens now. Zia was also a really interesting character in the beginning, and seeing the development of Zia's character through to the end was also really interesting. I'm excited to see how it translates further in the future 2 books. We got to meet a few Egyptian gods. Sat was definitely a formidable villain. I think that Sat was just written so beautifully, but also modernized in a way that was just also pure, like, quite laughable at points, especially with Horus and Isis and Tote as well. I think those 3 were also written really well. And I love as well the callbacks to Percy Jackson. There were certain scenes where I think Bast at one point was like, yes, we're on the west side of the river. The east side has problems of its own and gods of its own. And everyone was like, wait, what? I think it was referencing the Olympian gods. This really opens up a lot of the riordanverse further to see, whilst the half-bloods are kind of doing their own thing, there are other people and other magicians. The magic system is actually really cool. I really liked the magic system, and it was detailed and also explained in a way that was really understandable. Because I've read the Red Pyramid, I kind of know why this is now called the Serpent Shadow, and it makes me deathly afraid for what this book is going to entail, because yeah. But I'm now proceeding on to book 2, which is The Throne of Fire. And I'm really excited to be reading this one because, especially with what happened at the end of the first one, I think this is gonna like expand the world even further of the Egyptian gods and the House of Life and everything to do with that. But judging from the synopsis, we're definitely gonna see a lot more to do with the Ra in this book. And I'm excited because I think it's gonna be super cool and amazing. So yeah, I'm gonna get to reading The Throne of Fire, and I'll catch up with you once I finish, give my whole thoughts on the whole spiel. But also, I'm kind of wondering, in terms of the Kane Chronicles series, what god would I want to like host, I guess? What god would I want to host? I kind of would love to host Horus, purely because I think Horus is really cool. But at the same time, like, could I host Ra? Could I host Ra? Could I be a host for Ra? Potentially. Anyway, I'll get to reading. Catch up with you soon. Bye. Let us put the dust jacket back on. Hi besties, so last night I finished The Throne of Fire, and oh my gosh, it like elevated the Red Pyramid to a whole new level. I think this book was just so amazing. We got so much more exposition in terms of the world of modern mythology. We got to meet a few more gods, which was exciting, and we also got to witness a few new characters. So Carter and Sadie really grow a lot during this novel, kind of realizing their own kind of fatal flaws and trying to build upon them as people. And I think that this book just does really well in grounding them in some sense of reality of the ways that they are weak in some sense, because in the events of the previous book they are now much weaker than before, and it's interesting to see them tackle this in a mature way. Like Sadie's friends from London even notice how much she's matured now, and it just really speaks to the amount of maturity that they have during this novel. We also get to meet a few new characters that we see through the magicians that come through Carter and Sadie's kind of message from the previous novel. The most prominent of them being Walt. Walt, he's such an interesting character. I love Walt. It's just the way that his storyline continues throughout this. I think Walt does really well in just kind of not letting the dark days win. And I'm excited to see how he continues to fill the dynamic in book 3, because it's hinted towards that he might be a little bit of a prominent character. We also get to see Zia again, and I can't say much without going into spoilers, but also Vlad the Inhaler. I was creased. I was laughing so hard at that. Vlad the Inhaler, like, amazing. I love it. It's like Darth Vader, like. But yeah, we get to see a lot of the modern Egyptian world developed within this. I think that it was just amazing to kind of see Rick Riordan take this story further, but also build up to a really, really satisfying conclusion, which we're now about to get to. We also get introduced to Bez in this novel, who is the god of dwarfs, and Bez is amazing. Bez is so iconic. I think, like, just the way that he is and the person that he is, and like getting closer to, oh my god. I'm gonna say one thing, Rick Riordan. If you do not fix this thing, I will personally be sad. But yeah, I just had a really fun time with this. I think that Rick Riordan just does really well in balancing plot and action and exposition. It's definitely something that I as a writer can take from when I start to plot my own kind of novels. There's like a King Arthur-esque series that I want to do that's inspired by Welsh mythology. Plus, actually, I was having this thought last night. If the Percy Jackson TV series does really well, I would really love to see a Kane Chronicles spin-off or Kane Chronicles limited series run on Disney Plus, because I think it would just be so good and so amazing. And also the references that we get to kind of Rome and like the Roman gods within the Throne of Fire with a certain character. I think that this also sets up Heroes of Olympus, because I know there's Camp Jupiter in the Heroes of Olympus and they take on like the Roman gods. So having like it link between these 3 series, amazing. I think it would do really well for like younger kids who are like looking to get into mythology, because I think whilst I'm happy for the Percy Jackson series, Greek mythology has kind of been popularized enough. So whilst Percy Jackson will popularize it again for younger children, I definitely think it's important that we also popularize other types of mythology and other forms of mythology. I think we should definitely popularize mythologies that are not from like white-based cultures. I would love to see an Egyptian mythology series rise to prominence once again. I mean, House of Anubis kind of awoke the Egyptian mythology lover in me, so I really love to see it being reignited with younger children with the Kane Chronicles TV show. Oh, I could do a whole video on the House of Anubis actually. So yeah, that was Throne of Fire, but now we're gonna be heading into the final book of the Kane Chronicles series, and that is The Serpent's Shadow. And I've kind of coordinated my outfit to the last book. I mean, this is the Creation of Adam t-shirt that I got, but like the colors kind of match up pretty nicely. And there's like, oh, I think this is probably my favorite cover of the series. Well, actually, I don't know. I kind of like the Throne of Fire cover, especially with the golden throne and the significance that it has with the novel. But I'm also really excited to see The Serpent Shadow. This is actually the shortest book of the series. The books kind of like decline in length as the series goes on. So I'm really excited to see like kind of how this wraps it up in the shortest time possible. It's just got a really stunning cover, and the synopsis also makes me really excited to see how it ends. I'm just excited to see how everything plays out, but also continue on the theories from the previous book with Zebra and Weasel and see what significance they have to play in this final book. I'm excited to see how the Kane siblings finally defeat their final villain. And so I'm gonna get to reading The Serpent's Shadow, and I will catch up with you with my whole thoughts and feelings once I'm finished and give my overall opinions of the Kane Chronicles series. I'll see you in a bit, besties. Hello besties, I finished The Serpent Shadow and I finished the entire Kane Chronicles series. Now, I think this was a very satisfying conclusion to the series and kind of wrapped everything up nicely, but it also left a lot open to future explorations, future series, future trilogies, and I think that's great because I definitely think Rick Riordan should return to this universe because it's amazing. I think that there's just so much to explore within the Kane Chronicles universe and the wider riordanverse as a whole, so I'm really excited to hopefully see some more Egyptian mythology from him in the future. I still stand by what I said, this should be made into a TV show. Like we did in Percy Jackson in The Last Olympian, we really got to see the culmination of the journey that Sadie and Carter took from the very first book. Both of them are very much more mature now and also realize the extent of their powers. It's very, very humbling to see these kids realize that they are strong and they are amazing, but also to know when too much is too much. And it's amazing because it just shows how mature they actually are. And especially, Felix. Okay, so Felix, he's so cute. He's so cute. God of Ice? Yes. Become the God of Ice. Do it. Honestly, if he wants to do it, he can do it. The penguins are so adorable. He's so cute. I wish he had more of a major role, but of course he's a young child. So, but maybe if we did a Kane Chronicles series, maybe he could be the Nico D'Angelo of the Kane Chronicles. I think that would be so cute. Wouldn't that be amazing? Walt evolves. Same with Zia, they both evolved in this, and I definitely think, especially with what happens, by the end of the novel, I definitely think both of them really come to terms with their roles in the greater society of, stuff. And it's amazing. I think, this book just did really well in kind of showcasing the power of kids, but also the strength and courage of children, and it's amazing. I think Rick Riordan does this really well in his series, where he kind of gives kids hope that they are able to be strong and they are able to tackle anything and everything. And of course there are some things that kids shouldn't be subjected to, but he also gives them hope that even if they are subjected to these things, they're always going to have the courage to rise above it. I can't fault this series, I can't fault basically any of his writing as a whole, because one, I'm not the target audience, so it's not really fair of me to critically review this. At the end of the day, it's a coherent, succinct story and the characters fleshed out, and it's amazing. I think we really got to see a cool representation of the different gods. I think we really got to see just amazingness, and the plot throughout all three of these books, amazing. You can really tell that this was planned out thoroughly, and that it really follows a classic 3-arc structure, beginning, middle, end, and the balance between action and exposition and also character development was also really well done in this, and the way that Rick Riordan blends it together, chef's kiss, amazing. So overall, The Kane Chronicles is definitely worth picking up. If you haven't picked it up yet, I would highly recommend that you do so, because it's just one of those series that you don't really want to miss out on, and one of those series that I think is probably slept on a lot. From the comment section, a lot of people do say that The Kane Chronicles isn't as discussed, and so I'd really like to see it discussed more, because it deserves a lot of merit. But I can also see why Percy Jackson is the bigger series, because obviously it's had a lot more expansion with 3 5-book series as opposed to 1 trilogy from the Kane Chronicle era. But I would really love to see another series from this mythology, and I think Rick Riordan would do really well to do that, maybe after his new book in September, which I'm tempted to read for a video, because I am doing the riordanverse stuff, but I don't know when I'd be able to read it, because obviously we finish Trials of Apollo in October, and the book comes out in September, so I could do a special bonus video potentially, just reading that one book. Maybe we could do that, but we'll see. But for now, Kane Chronicles is amazing, highly recommend. Go pick them up, and yeah. And so that is everything, besties. I hope you enjoyed the second installment of me reading the riordanverse. Next month we'll be delving into the Heroes of Olympus, which is one that a lot of you have really wanted me to get into since the first Percy Jackson video. So I'm really excited to be getting into it, and I hope it's going to be very, very exciting. And again, a massive thank you to Book of the Month for sponsoring today's video. If you'd like to try out Book of the Month for yourself and you have a US-based shipping address, you can use the link in my description, plus use using the code SUNNY5, you'll be able to get your first book for $9.99. And so yeah, if you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, and if you're new here, be sure to click that subscribe button so that you're notified whenever I upload next. If you want to check me out on any other social media, I'll have all of them linked in the description down below, along with my Ko-fi page, which you can use to donate any amount of money that is served as a form of a tip to help support this channel further. And so yeah, I guess until the next time, bye besties.